Hello.
Hello. How? Wow.
Hi, everyone.
Well, that was new. That was unexpected. Hello, everyone. Hello, Duker.
Keep saying hi too.
I know.
Hello, Dukers.
How is everybody doing? I'm so glad to see everybody. That was funny. That was really funny. Look at Duke. What are you doing, Duke?
He just wants to be part of our live stream.
No, look, no, like seriously, look at his face stuck in there. Look.
Yeah.
Can you see it? It's stuck between the chairs. Yeah. Hi, Duke. As long as you don't drool on my chair.
Over here.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Volume.
Welcome to Bible Prophecy and Truth. What'd you say?
No, the volume went funny for a while.
Oh yeah, it does that.
Is it good again?
Hello. Now, yeah.
Okay.
Hey Jay. Jay said cute doggy. Yeah,
Jay.
that's our little
Welcome,
Duker.
brother.
That's our little Duker LaPuker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
He's like, wait, did you say my name?
Yeah.
Did you say my name?
Anyway, it's Wednesday. Welcome back, everybody. I know. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah. We're in for a good study today, too.
My sister, how's your day going?
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hola.
That's just not gonna work. Wait, hola? Is that what you said?
I said hola.
Oh, I thought you said hola.
I probably did.
You did. Anyway, so how's your day going?
Very.
She's looking. I don't want to be positive or anything.
Fine.
Oh, come on. We were so quiet. See, we always chime in a few minutes before, even sometimes like 30 minutes before, and we chat back and forth, and we were so quiet. We weren't laughing.
It's hard when somebody says, "How was your day?" You just go,
Well, you can just say good. Yeah, fine's good.
"Really good." It wasn't
I can't
bad."
praising the Lord all day long.
I can skip. I can't skip you. Jody, how was your
I
day?
can skip you.
It was okay. I was job searching. I applied for a couple of positions. So
Good. Hello, Sheila. She said blessings, everyone.
Hi,
Hope y'all
Sheila.
are good.
Welcome.
We're good. Everything's good. I'm good. You're good. Everybody's good.
when this is on the screen, does it look really confusing?
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Your fingers.
She's very silly right now. She wasn't before. She was so serious. And
I'm really tired today. It's like I'm probably going to be giggly or something.
You?
no.
I never giggle.
I might hope I don't fall asleep.
Well,
Anyway, so let's do this. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do it right now. Don't even hesitate. Don't even wait. Just subscribe to the channel and please hit the like button. Big thumbs up.
yeah.
And don't forget to turn on the notification bell because you'll be missing my sister's videos and our live streams about my sister's videos. And she's working on something really, really good.
If you subscribe and you don't hit the bell, you won't get notified. You have to do
Right.
it.
So you'll miss out.
Mm-hmm.
So be there or be square.
And then
That's
share
right.
it. Share the video with your friends.
Yeah.
And
Share,
family.
share, so we can reach more
Share
people.
it. Send it
we'll
in all
wait
those
a
private
second here so
messages.
You can go grab your family members and friends. We'll wait.
We'll wait.
And I even got a call.
Ooh. My hair
All right,
being on the
so-
rain.
Guess it's a good time to get started, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. We'll get started. I will share my screen. Because today we're going to talk about the story of the Bible. And I don't know if I'll get all the way through it or not, but We might. Depends on how fast it goes. But if you want to follow along, on my site, BibleProphecyandTruth.com, under Bible Prophecy, there's this summary of biblical prophecy and the story of the Bible. You can also find it here on the notes menu, the story of the Bible. So either way, it'll take you to this page right here. And there's several ways to look at it. This one, I don't know why I did this. This was the original, and it's kind of hard to read, and it's like got all these little things to expand. But I thought a lot of people would want to see just a little really quick summary. And then people that wanted to see more, you could just drill into all of these, right? So I created that a long time ago, and some people like it, I'm sure, because it's super fast. And then I have a text version of that, but I'm going to go to this one, which is a different website that I have. It's BibleTruth.info. And I have a timeline that I created on here. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to put it in the...
What's the new website? Bible Truth what?
BibleTruth.info.
Okay.
Bible Truth.
Yeah. I'm going to put the screen over
This
here.
is a new one?
No, I've had it for a long time. The main site is it's a site about who is Jesus, and it talks about all the why God said let us, who is Elohim, the name of Jesus, the man, the right hand of God. It talks about all the things about who is Jesus and what the Bible says about it. It's very informative, and it's largely done by a man named Robert Sabine, who has passed away. But he was
Andy, you read this.
Yeah, you saw this video.
Oh, the video. Yeah, the video.
This video is actually a very good video that I invite everybody to watch. Go to BibleTruth.info and look at under Brother Sabine videos. It's a really good video on who Jesus is.
Yeah, I think you have, Jackie.
And I sent the video to both of you in the past.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. But it's really good. But I have this timeline on here, which is a single page, and I made it so it's kind of good for mobile devices, but it works just as well on a computer, and it goes through the entire timeline of the Bible in a summary. And I made this because there were so many people that were asking, they're looking for a Bible summary. And so that's what I created. So I'm just gonna start going through it, and maybe we'll finish it today, maybe not. Maybe we'll have to finish it next week, but we'll see how it goes. And I'm just gonna start off because it's everything in the Bible, or I should say that the Bible tells us literally everything. It tells us the history of the planet from creation. It tells us all the history all the way up to Jesus Christ, and then gives us even more information about what's coming after. And it literally has everything. It's I mean, if you haven't read the Bible from cover to cover, then start right now. I know it seems like a daunting task, but it really isn't. I used to read the Bible a couple times a year, 2-3 times a year sometimes. In the beginning, when I became a Christian in 2004, I became ravenous for the Word of God, and I started reading it. I spent literally 3 or 4 hours every day reading and studying, and I did that for years. And I don't as much now. I spend a lot of time answering emails and things like that, and doing other things. And I've developed a number of websites. But anyway, I don't need to go into all that. Why am I talking about all that?
Digress.
So read the Bible. That's the whole point. Is just read the whole thing, because everything's in there, literally. So the Bible starts off with, in the beginning, God, right? In the beginning, there was God. And I want to point out something in Genesis chapter 1. because there's a lot of kind of these ideas that in between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, there's like billions of years. That's even supposed Christians, and I say supposed because I don't know how you can really believe that evolution fits
I know.
with creation, because it absolutely does not. But people say that in between verse 1 and verse 2, there's billions of years, which is nonsense. And I want to point it out, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. I like a couple other versions. I don't have that one here. But like the ESV, or what is it?
ASV. I like ASV.
Yeah.
And ESV.
I don't have I have a different version on my other computer, but it says, in the beginning, God created the universe. Because he did. That's what he did. He created the heaven and the earth, which is the universe. And the earth was without form and void. And people say, well, this is the earth that was just covered with water, and it says, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. But void means empty. It does not exist. Between verse 1 and verse 2, there's no time span. It's just God. There's a blanket statement here that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And then starting in verse 2, it goes into detail about how God did that. And like how he created all the different things and the order that he did it in. It's not that it's not a continuing statement, right? There's a blanket statement, and then it goes into the details of it. Kind of like, I'll point this out just because, God created, in the image of God created he him, right? So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them, right? But we know when we read chapter 2 and continue and read more of the details, we know that God didn't create man and woman on the same day. He didn't create man and woman at the same time. He created Adam. And then there was a period of time that passed, and then he created woman to make a helpmeet for Adam. That's what it says. And so it's one of those things, right? We can't just assume certain things. We have to kind of read it as it's written. It's a blanket statement made, and then there's more details given. So I just want to point that out, because a lot of people have never heard that from their preacher, I guess, and a lot of people teach differently on that. So,
hey Thomas, welcome. Yeah, Thomas.
Hey Thomas, welcome, brother.
Welcome.
So I just wanted to point that out. It's one of those things that, if I can find my website again, it's one of those things that people seem to be confused about. So I spend a little bit of time on that. It's just God makes a blanket statement, then he goes into the details of how he did it. And the earth didn't exist in the beginning. And then God created the earth out of nothing, right? Yeah. There was nothing in the beginning. God didn't take something and make something else out of it. He created it from scratch. There was nothing that existed. And God is a spirit, right? Jesus said that God is a spirit. And he doesn't exist in the physical universe, right? God is not part of the universe. That's why I like to say it this way, that if you were to look everywhere in the entire universe, in every galaxy, every solar system, every planet, everywhere in the universe, you would not find God, because he's not part of the universe. He created the universe. He's outside of it. He's a spirit. Now, he became part of it when he was born into this creation, this physical existence, as a man. But he's not part of the creation. He made all things. And it's important to understand that simple fact, that God is not a physical thing that's part of the universe. It's part of our physical realm, right? He is a spirit that created it all. So that's just something that we need to understand in our minds, to understand the nature of God, who He is from the beginning. And he literally did it in 6 days. Is, a lot of people try to say, well, maybe it was 6,000 years, so on and so forth. But like if we look in Ezekiel, Exodus 20:21, for in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth. Right? He didn't take thousands of years between the days. And another thing that I like to point out too is, when he created light, right? The essence, which is light, what we know of as light that we can perceive with our eyes, he created that. But then he created the earth, and he created plants, right, on the 3rd day. But he didn't create the sun until the 4th day. Our sun, right? He created light, but he didn't create the sun itself, like our star, until the 4th day. So if there's 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or whatever between the 3rd and the 4th day, how did all the plants, which need the sun, survive? Right? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that theory doesn't make any sense at all. And the biggest reason is that God just said that it was a day. He created the lights to rule over the night, divide the light from the darkness, to create days for seasons and for days and for years, is what it says, right? He set that all up in the creation when he created everything, when he created our solar system. So I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it's important to understand these kind of fallacies that people teach, that they're not real at all. They don't even make sense, and they don't follow scripture. So it's important to follow the Bible and just believe what it says.
So Jay said, so wait, light was there without the sun?
Well, that's what it says, right? It says that God created light, but then he didn't create our sun until the 4th day.
That is kind of weird.
He created what is light, right? He created light. But what we know as the sun gives off light, but light is what God created as an essence, like a thing, right? There was darkness. And really, if you think about it, there really is no such thing as darkness. Darkness is simply the absence of light. And there was no physical reality at all. There was no universe. There was no planets. There was no galaxies. There was no space. There was nothing, right? So when God created the universe, he created a thing called light.
Jay says, I've thought on this a lot and I came up with nothing.
Yeah, I ponder this stuff a lot too. But and that's the thing is, if we just read it and believe what it says, right? Because God created, he said, let there be light, and there was light. But he didn't create the sun until the 4th day, right? There to be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide, right? And he created our sun. So he basically created a physical thing, right? Because light really is a physical thing in the universe. It's something that we perceive with our eyes, right? But it didn't exist before. Just like there's no such thing as cold, really. Cold is simply the absence of heat. There's no such thing as darkness. Darkness is simply the absence of light. And so God created it. I know I think it's impossible for us to really grasp as human beings, but that's the best I can do. So he made everything, right? He made music. God invented music. God invented humor. God invented everything that we touch, feel, taste, wonder about. Everything. Every single thing that we think about, see, hear, touch, smell, taste, everything, and our emotions, our mental makeup, everything. God created all of it. And we're made in his image. We're made in the image of God, which is his spiritual image, right? Our essence, our being, our soul is made in the image of God. It's absolutely amazing to ponder and think about. God is so amazing. He is so far beyond intelligent. I don't even like to use the word intelligent with God or genius with God, because that's a human term, right? That's, oh, this guy is so smart, he's a genius, he's got an IQ of 150, you know. God is so far above that it doesn't even fit.
Yeah.
So God created all things. He literally created all things out of nothing. He just formed the earth and created it from
So
nothing.
he created the universe. So does that mean that there's another side to the universe?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, is the universe like a certain space and then there's something outside of space?
Well, God is outside of that. God does not exist in the universe. He created the universe. Right?
So outside of the universe is heaven.
Is God.
Yeah,
Now-
it is kind of hard to
now
grasp.
If you believe in dimensions or, you know, things like that, I think that's, you know, because there's a whole spiritual realm around us that we cannot perceive.
Yeah.
Right? There's alternate dimensions and things like that are part of God's creation, I'm sure, that we only see this one. I mean, we might as well talk about this now, right? Why did God set up things the way he did? I think we talked about this last week, where the reason God made all things and made us on this planet with our five senses, that we can't see God, we can't see the spiritual realm, we can't see into heaven, we can't see God, and he did it that way on purpose, right? He just like he taught in parables on purpose, because he only wants those that love him to understand. He wants those that really love him to come with him into eternity. So that's why he's done this. This whole entire existence is so that God can get a people for himself to spend eternity with. It says in Revelation 20, 21, 22, you know, God is going to create a new heaven and a new earth at the end of all of this. And he's going to walk among us. He's going to dwell among us. God himself is going to dwell with us and spend forever with us. That's the whole purpose of everything. So that's why he created a physical existence. Yeah. And it was the human form of Jesus, right? The image of a human being that was in God's mind that he used as the blueprint for this physical existence. Right? This universe was created to support human life. That's what he created it for. To create us.
Mm-hmm.
And his plan from the beginning was to become part of his creation, right? To become a man, to be born into his own creation. Which I think about that, Jay. Think about that. You create something from scratch and then you become part of it.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely mind-boggling to think about.
Yeah.
But God did it.
It's like making a cake and then you find yourself inside the cake.
Yeah.
Oh, she heard that. Then you find yourself in the middle of the cake and you're eating your way out.
Yeah. So, and that's the, the Bible tells us that Jesus actually said, the dog's over there in the other room staring at us.
He's just standing there.
Anyway, Jesus told us point blank in words, God is a spirit. And we know that in John chapter 1, that the word, which is the word there, logos, is the divine expression. It's the expression of God into his own creation. It's how he expressed his being, his existence into his own creation was Jesus, the human being that he was born. And it's that divine expression of God that became Jesus Christ.
Jay said it's like you create the matrix and you go into it to experience it.
Yeah, I know. And that's one thing that I actually have a little thing that I have thought about. I wrote something up on it a while ago where we really are like in a matrix.
Yeah.
Where God created this specific existence, but this is not this is not reality, right? This is our reality. This is the physical creation that God created for us, but it's like we're attached to it from the physical realm. We're attached to the physical realm from the spiritual realm, right? And it's almost like a matrix kind of thing, It's kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Do you think he has
So
to go to the
anyway.
bathroom?
So this around us really isn't real.
Well, it's real. It's as real as anything, right? God created us. He created our souls, our spirits, and he created this physical existence. It's definitely real. It's just as Jay was saying, it's kind of like a matrix, right? Where we can only see with our five senses. I think when we get to heaven, we're going to have more than five senses.
Right.
We're going to see other things. We're going to have the abilities that angels do. We're going to have, it's going to be a much broader experience than just the five senses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this divine expression of God, he actually expressed himself into the physical world as an angelic form before he became Jesus Christ, right? He appeared to Abraham, he appeared to Moses, he appeared to, as a pillar of fire, a pillar of smoke, many different forms that he took. He walked and talked with Adam and Eve in the garden, but that was not Jesus. Jesus hadn't been born yet.
Right.
Yeah.
That was an angelic form, just like the one where he appeared to Abraham as a man, right? It was an angelic form where he manifested himself into creation. But then he was actually born into the world by becoming a man in Jesus Christ. It's absolutely just, it's mind-bending to try to understand it.
Yeah, Jay said, yeah, I heard you mention the matrix a couple times already.
Yeah.
It's interesting because remember I told you I had a theory of this existence? It's something similar. We'll type it out on Gab.
All right. I'm looking forward to seeing that, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing is God
Lay down.
God patterned his creation off of the idea of a human being that he had in his mind, right? He created all things based on what he was going to become. He was going to become a human being in Jesus Christ, and he made all things by him, by that, and for that image, right? That's what God created all things for. He wanted to become a man, and he wanted to have people to live with. The Bible says that God created all things for his good pleasure, right? He planned on becoming a man and having people that he can love and lavish gifts upon forever that will love him. That's what eternity is going to be, with God, dwelling with him. It's just, we can't even imagine how wonderful it's going to be. It's going to be bliss. which we have a word for that, but we've never experienced it. We don't know what bliss is. Utopia. Yeah, that's what it's actually going to be, even though it's like a fantasy word for us, because here in this life we never experienced that,
Right.
but we're going to. So he made us in his image, but not just the physical image he had in his mind, but our spiritual image, our soul, our humor, our thoughts, our just the ability to think, right? We can reason, we can think, and that's what God gave us. He gave us this ability to choose, to decide, and that's what this entire existence, this very short little period of time, the 6,000 years that we've been here, is for God to weed out the tares so he can keep the wheat and keep the ones that love him.
Well, yeah, because if he created all of this stuff, even the earth, we should still be thankful that he made things the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And the only,
And so when you say he planned all this out in advance, well, yeah, that's why you can think how it makes sense that he doesn't want people to be in heaven that don't truly love him. Look what all he does for us.
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah,
know,
exactly.
exactly.
and look at what he's putting up with so that he can save us. God did not create all the evil and wickedness in the world. Man did that.
Yeah.
God's just putting up with it so he can save us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He created our five senses, the beauty of canyons, lakes, rivers, oceans, mountains, animals, birds, fish, the universe and all the galaxies that we can see with our telescopes, music, love, joy, laughter, humor, smells, touch, taste. These are all things that God created and gave us. How beautiful, how wonderful, It's amazing.
Yeah, to be able to see like that waterfall and then understand it and enjoy
The
its
majesty
beauty.
of God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he created our mind, and he gave us the ability to choose, free will. And that's what he's allowing us to do. He put us here where we can't see him, so we can say, there's no God. We can decide that without seeing him standing right in front of us. He gave us that ability so that we can choose.
It's kind of like he must have been thinking, well, I could make people love me, but let me see what would happen if I didn't force them. If I just gave them free will,
Exactly.
then I would know that they chose to love me, and I didn't have a hand in that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like what we would do. We don't want to force our children to love us or our spouse to love us. We want them to choose to love us.
We want them to love us for who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And, I've thought about that a lot. God could have just made robots. He could have just made these robots that just loved him, but he wants us to decide to love him.
Yeah.
He made us like him with the ability to choose, and he wants us to choose him. He wants us to love him for who he is.
Yeah. And we choose to love him because we do, and because we actually are grateful for what he does for us.
Yeah, exactly. So then, I want to put this in there. Come on, where's my mouse network? So this is kind of a picture, another one that I borrowed from the internet. But in the beginning, when you read the account of creation, everything was perfect. Perfect. It was beautiful. In the Garden of Eden, there was just plentiful fruits, food for them to eat. It was peaceful and beautiful and wonderful. Everything was perfect. Every single thing. And at the end of the creation, it says, it was very good.
Mhm.
There's the end of it. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Everything was perfect in the beginning. But he knew that given free will, left to our own devices, that we would fall from his intended purpose
Yeah, how sad.
and that we would sin. But he wants to save as many of us as possible, right? He gave himself a sacrifice for us.
Mhm.
And then, like we've talked about many times, he's growing his crop, so to speak, right? The wheat and the tares, the sower and the seed. He's allowing us to grow along with the evil people, even though he hates evil, can't stand it. He's allowing it to continue so that he can save us, as many of us as possible.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to destroy the wheat by uprooting the tares. So that's creation. So then what happened? There was only one rule. One. They could do anything they wanted. The only rule was they couldn't eat of the one tree in the middle of the garden. Yeah, I know. It's like, well, I wouldn't have eaten a tree. No, I think we would all.
No, we wouldn't
would
eat
all
from the
have
tree.
we would all have done the same thing.
We
that
pick
Adam
that
and Eve
almost
did.
daily.
Yeah.
We pick to eat from that tree.
Yeah.
Because this devil talks us into things every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Satan is one of the angels, and there's also a lot of real misunderstanding about angels out there.
Yeah.
And angels are created just like us. Angels did not exist before the creation. They were created when God created the heavens and the earth and created us. He also created the angels.
I didn't know that. I thought the angels were with him before we were.
The Bible doesn't say that. In fact, the Bible says that the angels are made. The angels also have a free will. Angels have sinned.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that he
They're-
created the
He just-
angels when he created the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bible tells us
He was
that they were
lonely.
made, that they're created.
Wasn't God lonely?
It's all part of his plan.
Does the
Well,
Bible say that?
I don't think that
He
God
felt alone,
is
or he was
able
alone.
to feel lonely. I mean, maybe he is, but God is perfect, right? God is far beyond our understanding, but he
Yes.
desired to have a people.
I
Which
thought
is
there
that?
was a verse that said something. He desired not to be alone, or something
Yeah.
like that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember it anyway. If
Okay.
anybody does, post it in the chat. But I don't remember ever
Thomas,
reading
Jay, and Paul will probably all Google it
that.
and type it in.
And I don't think God was lonely. He just decided that he wanted to do what he did.
Mhm.
And I've got a link here to my angels video, which I talk about angels and point out the scriptures that an angel is a malach, which is a deputy. It's the angels are what God uses to do many, many tasks in the earth. They're all around us. They're busy, very busy, doing things. We just can't see them
Yeah.
usually.
Another dimension. Right?
They're sent from heaven, right?
They're heavenly beings, right? And that's why the angels that sin, their sin was very grievous
Yeah.
because they're
Right.
heavenly beings.
I know.
And they still came down to the earth and sinned. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, Jay
I
wants
can't-
to know when they were created.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell us when. It doesn't give us a point in those 7 days, or 6 days of creation when they were made. But it does say that they were. Yes. So, and they're,
Hmm.
they're in the book of Enoch. They're called watchers.
Well, Satan was an angel.
Yeah, it is an
So,
angel.
well, what I'm saying at the time when Satan was tempting Eve, he was a fallen angel. So it had to have been before, like
Well,
sometime.
Well, so, and one thing I have here is we know that it was sometime before Adam was 130 years old that they sinned, because that's when Seth was born, when Adam was 130. It could have been any time during that 130 years that these things happened. It does not tell us. It doesn't say how long they were in the garden before Satan showed up and deceived Eve.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know exactly.
Well, he had time
how
to
long
fall. So God had created him, and then he had time to fall.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that
Satan
time
became
period.
obsessed with wanting to be God, and hateful, and apparently very quickly. Yeah.
And he didn't have to make him like that either. So apparently
Right.
that
He
was
didn't make
all a
him that
part
way.
of it too. The
Yeah.
But it is all a part of it, because that's why God spoke in parables when he was here on the earth as a man. That's why the whole Bible is basically written in parables. The mystery of God is woven throughout the Bible, because he does not want those that don't love him to understand. And this is a test. Remember, this is a proving grounds. And Satan is just another. Does God want people to be in heaven forever that are easily deceived, that will turn on God because someone lies to them, deceives them? You know, all of these things are very purposeful. That God did this for a reason, and you know, his reason is perfect, right? He set it all up so that in the end, he's going to have people with him that will be with him forever, and we're not going to have any troublemakers.
Yeah.
So here's a question. You probably don't know it, but I just started thinking about it. When we get to heaven, there's not going to be any darkness. It's going to always be light.
Well, that's what it says in Revelation. It says that Jesus, God, is the light. There's no need of a sun. There's no need of any, because he is the light. Yeah.
So does that mean space is going to be lit up, or?
Yeah, you're right. I can't answer that.
Good question. That's a J question.
There is going to be new heavens and a new earth, but it doesn't say how much different it's going to be. Now, here's one thing that it does say. It says there's going to be sevenfold light. Like, does that mean the universe is going to be 7 times as big as it is now? Is it just they're going to be more light? I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there.
That is a pessimistic optimist question, though.
We're just guessing.
I know.
Started thinking about that.
You and Jay are the inquisitive ones.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So the angels, and it was even the the angels that sinned in Genesis 6 were angels just like Satan, and it tells us that Satan's going to draw a third part of them with him when he falls, when he's cast out of heaven. So.
And he didn't have to make all of them. He could have just made the angels all be perfect. And he decided
even they have free.
Yeah, he even gave the angels free will.
So we'll be
ability to reason, to think, to decide. Yes.
Yeah, we'll be like, hanging out with the angels too.
Yeah. And
hey, grab me another pop, would you?
And that's one thing.
I want an umbrella in mine.
It's one thing that separates us from the animals, right? We're told, there is no such thing as evolution, right? All flesh is not the same flesh. There's one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, another of birds. We didn't all come from the same flesh. We didn't evolve. God made us different from the beginning. And one thing that separates us from the animals is the animals have a rudimentary ability to choose, to decide, but it's
Yeah.
very rudimentary. They don't have logical thought. They don't think things through. They act impulsively. They act on their nature and their programming, right?
They are self-centered.
And they can,
They can be
in a sense,
self-centered.
but their ability to choose only goes so far. It's very limited.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they're like that because their whole purpose is survival.
Survival.
Well, and God made them for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, He gave us dominion over this planet, and look at what we're doing to it.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah,
It's
we're
horrible.
destroying the earth.
but that's one thing that separates us from them is they don't have that ability to decide, to have this free will that we do.
Duke's pretty smart.
You know, when I was outside, I started thinking about creation versus evolution. I thought, how could people possibly think that the whole meaning of life was a big bang?
Yeah, it's kind of silly.
When you look at how intricate
I was
our
just-
bodies are made, when I
Yeah.
watch squirrels outside, it's like, why do they start gathering nuts
I know.
at the beginning of August instead of the beginning of summer?
I
No,
know.
they're not going to eat the nuts during the winter because there's snow. But they have
And they
plan B.
They don't think about it. They
They
don't
just do it.
decide to do it. It's just part of their programming.
Yeah, it's just
God-
their whole part of
they're-
survival.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is a dog is a dog, is a cat is a cat, right?
Mhm.
They don't decide their behaviors. They
Mhm.
act, in a very controlled way. It's the programming.
So
Thank God.
Duke's pretty smart though. I think he's
Yeah.
part human.
It's not that
He
they're
wants to be human.
Yeah, he wants
it's
to
not
be
that
human.
they're that they
Yeah,
still
he does.
have a type of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
But
just
they have the
they're just
ability to
they're
love.
vastly different than human beings.
And that's what makes them so godly, though, is because they do have the capability to love.
Yeah.
And evolutionists, they make it like animals were really intelligent and the human beings were really stupid.
I know, like cavemen. Ooh,
I
ooh, ooh.
know, it's
No,
like-
I was
Hello?
watching this program where it's about some girl from Norway or something. They found her body or something.
Oh yeah.
And they talked about how she left the place, and they said, well, they didn't have a language, so I guess people thought when she walked away that meant forever.
Duke.
I'm going,
He is.
even if you believe in evolution, why would you believe the human beings were so stupid
I know.
Duke is smart though.
and ugly?
And
I know.
ugly.
I know, it's really
Look at those-
kind of it's really almost an
Okay.
insult how they portray human beings in the past.
Mm.
Yes. Yet
Yeah.
I think it was the Greeks were the first one, either them or the Romans were the first one that had indoor plumbing. They figured that out. They made the pyramids.
Mhm.
They weren't all ugly.
Excuse me, but I think the French are the best looking.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, me and Tony.
So
And Andy,
back to
yes.
this.
We always want to take it to another
So-
No,
level.
but that was true though.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So the angels were created. We don't know exactly when, but somewhere along the line during the creation process, he also created the angels, and they're basically his deputies.
Yeah.
They're made to serve God and serve man. That was their purpose. And then Satan decided that he hates God. He wants to be God.
That's terrible.
And he's a very hateful. He's a deceiver. And so he came to Eve, and he said, now here's the thing, that Satan's first question to Eve was, did God really say that?
He's
And that's how he still deceives us
Yeah, he is.
today.
Yeah, he's always
6,000 years later, he's using the
Yeah.
same tactic because it still works. Did God really say that?
God will hit you upside the head, and then you say, "But did God just hit me upside the head?"
Did I just
Did he
imagine?
really say that?
Did
And
I
then-
not feel a
And
heavenly
then he
hand on my
uses
head?
our pride. You can be like a God.
Yeah, well, that's not what. That's in a lot of religions.
Well, after all,
That's in
I
a lot of
know.
religions.
we
Does.
talked about this before.
Hinduism
because
will eventually become God.
Science.
Yeah.
It's like Satan will say, well, now, you can't help who you love. You just love who you love. So how can
Love
it be
is love.
wrong?
Yeah.
He makes
Right.
you question things. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're happy, that's all that's really important. We just
Yeah.
have
And
to
he uses
all
our
accept
flesh.
you for the way you are.
Exactly. Our flesh makes us desire,
It's just
right?
lust.
And that's what we're supposed to overcome. We're supposed to overcome that flesh and that, it's like, are we still babies? Or
Yeah.
can we not control ourselves?
Mhm.
Yeah. Grow up.
Yeah. And we are, literally, to God, we're like little children. We're like little toddlers compared to him. He's still our father, and we have a lot to learn. Even at 60 years old, I'm just a little baby to God. Really, seriously. Yeah. And that's what, remember, Jesus said that we need to come to him as little children with that trust and that innocence and that just overwhelming, trust. What's another word that I'm looking for? I don't know. Anyway,
Admiration.
admiration.
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
And,
like little kids
like
just are so
little
full of
kids
love
with
for
wide
you. They're
eyes,
just
just learning.
it's
And
innocence.
it's just an innocence.
It's
yeah.
purity.
And that's how we should continue to, that's why Jesus said in his letters to the churches, right? You've lost your first love. You need to get that back. Do the first works, because that is when we first become a Christian, we're so just overwhelmed with love for God, and we tend to let that wane and let the world creep in and change us when we need to stay there. And that's what Jesus said. We need to stay there.
Yeah, when you feel like you're kind of getting, or you're kind of slacking off, just say no and just go to God and say, Lord, don't let me slip up.
Yeah.
Don't
And
let me
that's what-
slack off and become lazy. Help me to keep
Yeah.
that love for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
what we
that's,
should do.
if we walk in the Spirit all day long and invite God into every moment of our lives and pray without ceasing, just communicating with him all day long, that's what does it. Just having the Spirit of God in us, inviting God in everything that we do, that's everything. That will lead us exactly where God wants us to go.
Mhm.
And keep
Well,
us
I
from
know when
sin.
I'm not on the days I don't like, it doesn't happen very often, but I feel lost on the days when I don't listen to my Bible or pray.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
know.
lost puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get to the point where sometimes I'm working and I'll spend a few hours working and not think of God. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
man.
I did that
just a couple
today.
hours without thinking of God. It's like,
Or just praising him. Just say, Lord,
Yeah.
I love you. And yeah.
And it's not like we have to be on our knees praying all day.
Yeah.
We just invite God into every moment of our lives,
Mhm.
talking to him, communicating with him.
Remember, Frenchie.
So
Okay.
Satan came to
French.
Eve and he said, did God really say you couldn't eat of this tree? Did he really say that you would die? You won't die.
She said, no, but I'm going to do it anyway.
You could be like a god. Tried to make her think that God was actually deceiving her when he was the one deceiving her. And she believed him. And she ate of that tree.
Didn't she admit that? Didn't she admit that? Did she say, no, he didn't? But she did it anyway.
Well, she blamed the devil when God confronted Adam and Eve. She blamed Satan. Well, the serpent beguiled me. Well, she listened and allowed him to
Adam
deceive
throws
her.
her under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, the woman, she gave it to me. Oh, thanks.
She did.
Oh, I know. Adam did the same thing. Yeah. Because Adam,
What the heck?
remember, Adam was not deceived. We're told that Adam was not there, was not deceived.
You just listened to Eve.
He listened to the voice of his wife instead of God. That was Adam's sin.
And he threw her under the
And then
bus.
when God confronted them, well, she gave it to me.
Figuratively speaking,
He
since
did
they
throw
didn't
her
have
under the bus.
buses then.
He
Yeah.
did. Well, she told me.
Yeah,
It's
it's just, when you
It's
think
so
about it,
typical,
they're so
though.
human, right?
I know.
And they're the first ones. They didn't have any other, exampple. They were just like little children. What happens, when all of us that have had kids, when you catch them,
Yeah,
how they try to weasel out of things.
that's true.
Was it Sarah that was Abraham's wife?
Yeah.
I think it was her that said something, and she goes, "I didn't say that," and God said, "Yes, you
Well,
Yes, you
she
did.
laughed.
Yeah.
She laughed in
Yeah.
the tent when God told Abraham
She
that
said,
they
"I
would have a
didn't
child. And she laughed. What? Me? I'm past age. I'm gonna have a child.
Yeah.
And God told her she laughed. And she said, "Oh, I didn't laugh."
And he said,
She
yes,
said,
you
"Yes, you did."
Yeah.
it's funny. So that was the sin. That was the original sin, right? Satan deceived Eve, and then Eve talked Adam into having it. Look, I'm not dead. Here, it's good to eat.
I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet.
And that's the thing is, it's another thing that I've pondered, Jay, is this whole the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I don't believe it had any special magical powers or properties of any kind.
Yeah.
The only thing about that tree was when they disobeyed God, they all of a sudden had the knowledge of good and evil because they realized they
Maybe
could
that's
disobey God.
Maybe that's why God
When you
called it
sin,
that.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
and that's
sin.
why it was the tree of knowledge
That
of good and evil.
acknowledgement
Knowledge
of
of good
sin.
and evil, because when they bit into that apple and disobeyed God, all of a sudden they realized there was a thing called evil.
Well,
It
yeah,
was
then
the knowledge
they
of it.
They were naked.
They could disobey God, and suddenly they felt naked. Yeah.
They were naked.
Yeah. But suddenly they realized that they were naked and
Oh!
felt
Yeah.
self-conscious.
Yeah.
Which they
hid
never had
themselves
before.
from God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just think about
That's
how
what-
we are, though, when we recognize that we sin. When we realize we've been sinning, we're like, oh,
That's what guilt is, right?
Yes.
That's what happened to them, is they had guilt and they were naked and they were ashamed and wanted to hide themselves. Yeah.
Terrible.
Mhm.
And like I said, we don't know how long they were in the garden when that happened. We just know that it was sometime before 130 years when they had Seth. So, and probably a few years before that at least. But because of their disobedience, God expelled them from the garden and then changed things in the world. Remember, because everything was perfect. There weren't any thorns or thistles.
Yeah.
Bees did not sting you. Mosquitoes didn't bite you. And you didn't have to till the ground by the sweat of your brow to grow food. There was equality.
Yeah.
But after sin, God assigned punishment. Thorn and thistles became into being, pain in childbirth, having to submit to another's rule. This is all a direct result of sin and the punishment for it.
Jay said, I agree. It was the act of disobedience. I do not believe the tree had any innate power.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, it was a disobedience.
So all of these, sin caused all of that. Sin caused famine, natural disasters, animal species to die off, all of the things that in the world, and I know you can't see this very well. I wonder if I can blow it up a little bit. Oh, my left mouse is not working. Let's blow this up. Yeah. I like this passage in Hosea 4. You make vows and break them. You kill and steal, commit adultery.
Mm-hmm.
There's violence everywhere, one murder after another. That is why your land is in mourning.
Yeah.
And everyone is wasting away.
Yeah.
Even the wild animals and the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea are disappearing because of sin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, the penalty for sin is death. And that's the thing, God said, if you eat of the tree, you shall surely die. And he didn't say you will die the moment you bite that apple or whatever fruit it was. Probably wasn't an apple. But the moment you bite into that, you'll die. He didn't say that. He just said you will die. And we were created to live forever. We weren't death is not part of life.
Right.
I know it is to us in this world, right? We're used to death, but it's not part of life. It's not what was supposed to be.
That's why it hurts so bad when people die.
And that's why it's so confusing and so devastating to us when people die, because it's really not a normal thing. We were created to live forever.
Yeah.
Sin is what caused death to be a reality. Yeah. So, and, a day to God, as Peter says, is 1,000 years. And 1,000 years is a day. No man has ever lived to be 1,000 years old. The oldest man was Methuselah. I think it was 963 years.
Nobody's ever.
So nobody's ever lived past the first day. Yeah.
That's interesting.
In that day, you shall surely die.
Oh, is that what it says? In that day, you'll surely die?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
He said,
Yes, what does it mean by that?
That you won't live to
that's what I'm
1,000
saying.
years.
No man has ever lived to be 1,000 years old. Yeah, and he said,
You said something about they will die.
Well, yeah, he's looking for the verse, right?
you may eat freely of everything, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou shalt eat thereof, thou shalt surely die.
Yes, so it didn't mean the
in the day. It just, what that really means? That means that when you eat it, death will become a reality. You're going to die.
You're going to die in your sin.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're going to die in that moment.
Well, they didn't die in that moment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Adam lived 930 years. And it tells us in Genesis 5:4 that they had many sons and daughters, right? We're only told about 3 of the children that Adam and Eve had. And we're only told about 3 sons that they had. But they obviously had many more sons and daughters. Because the Bible tells us specifically that Eve is the mother of all living. There was no other parents. Adam and Eve birthed the entire human race.
They married each other. Jay said, I thought that meant you did die, but God meant a spiritual death.
I think it's both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because even a physical death, nobody's ever lived 1,000 years. And the spiritual death is the second death that will come after judgment day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing.
That's confusing. So what does that have to do with nobody ever living to be 1,000?
Well, the physical death. Yeah.
Well, she means how are you connecting it?
Well, that's true, because if it really is just meaning that you're going to die, in that day death will become a reality, then what does the 1,000 years have to do with it? I agree with you.
But it is kind of interesting.
It's just stuff
Because
I
a
ponder.
day to the Lord is like 1,000 years or whatever.
And that's what Peter said. A day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. And when you look at God's plan of creation, right? The 7,000 years of this plan. The 6,000 years to today is the 6 days. And that 1,000-year reign of Christ will be the 7th day. Because the day of the Lord really spans that last 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wow. I didn't
That
tie
is
that
interesting.
together before.
Mhm.
7 days a week, 7,000 years.
And
Yeah. It's
A
interesting.
day is 1,000 years.
Mhm.
and that's, maybe it has more than one meaning.
Yeah, it's just
With
interesting.
God does 1,000 things at the same time. There's usually not just one thing
Yeah, that's true.
behind anything God does. There's many purposes. Yeah. But that's, a lot of people, where did Cain find a wife? Well, it was one of his sisters or his cousins, But back then,
yeah,
you have to
cousins.
remember that the gene pool, Adam and Eve had 100% of the genes that are in the entire human race right now.
Mhm.
All of them were in them. And so they had children of many diverse,
Nationalities?
not nationalities, but what's the word I'm trying to think of? The way
DNA.
you look, the way you look, and your
DNA.
your physical attributes and things. Yeah, your DNA.
Your
Chromosomes.
Huh?
Chromosomes.
Chromosomes?
genes,
Well, no,
your gene.
I was trying to.
Wait,
I'm trying
I
to
can't
think
hear
of.
Jody.
Yeah, what did you say, Jody?
Your gene pool.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of like the way, like, if you go to different parts of the world and people have a certain dominant gene pool in that area, they all kind of look the same, act the same, talk the same,
Epigenetics.
and
Okay.
but there's a word that I can't think of. I was trying to think of,
know. I
but
think
right
it's,
there in the tip of
I
my
think
tongue,
it's
but I can't think.
nationality.
But kind of like that, but everything, they had all of it in
Yeah, I don't know.
their bodies, right? All of that gene pool.
Come on, you smart people in chat.
So
Google it.
well, they don't know the word I was trying to think of. But,
You're awfully quiet in
Go
there.
to I know. Well, Jay said epigenetics. I don't even know what that
epigenetics.
is.
So
But everybody
anyway,
else is quiet.
the question a lot of people have is, where did
Come on,
Cain
Paul.
find a wife? Well, it was one of his sisters. They had many sons and daughters, it says in Genesis 5:4.
Yeah, that's just kind of gross.
Hmm.
So that's the fall into sin. We're ejected from the garden. The world changes massively. All of a sudden, Adam has to till the ground for food.
Yeah.
There's thorns and thistles. Imagine that. A rose before the fall. You just grab the rose and you would smell it and look at it. Well, now it pokes you with a thorn.
Mhm.
And all of that. Yeah. All came into being, and then for the next 1,000 years, sin really begins to rule in the hearts of men.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, Cain killed Abel because he was jealous over the favor God bestowed on Abel. But it tells us that Cain's offerings were not acceptable to God. He was probably not willing to give God the good part of his harvest. Right? And Abel was. It wasn't that God was being unfair to Cain. Cain was selfish and didn't want to give God what God deserved. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we really don't know how many other children had been born by then. By the time Cain and Abel were alive, we're only told about 3 of the sons, but we're not told about any of the other children, and then we know they had a lot.
And for
So
all we
we
know,
don't
they
know.
could have been like 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, we don't know. So it's entirely unknown how many other children had been born.
Yeah.
But we
So
know
how
that
old
Cain
was
took
he
a wife.
when he died?
Huh?
How old was Eve when she died? You know, does it say?
I don't think it tells us. It tells us how old Adam was. He was 930. I don't think it tells us when Eve died.
That's a lot of kids in 900.
I know. But when they were like 300 years old, they were just like 30 years old.
They were still in the
They were
prime
still popping
of their
those
life,
babies
yeah.
out, I'm sure,
Yeah.
at 400 years.
And that's why,
And
you know, I-
kids have 50 or 60 football teams.
Yeah.
and I did the math
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm one of those guys that has to know. And so I did a very conservative estimate of like Eve only having one daughter every 20 years, which is a very ridiculously conservative estimate.
Mhm.
And then those daughters only having one daughter every 20 years. So that by the time of Jared, which was 400 years in, there would have been over 1 million people on the earth.
Jeez.
And then at the time of the flood, 1,000 years after that, there would have been easily 1 billion people.
Yeah,
Probably more, because only one daughter every 20 years is a ridiculously
yes,
small estimate.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There was probably several billion people on the earth.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, before the flood, the whole world was a pole-to-pole tropical planet.
Mhm.
Right now we're having problems because there's so much of the world is covered with water now. So much of the world is desert. There's not much of the world that's lush and green anymore.
Yeah.
But before the flood, it was all lush, green, plentiful. It would have been no problem supporting billions of people. Yeah. And the lifespan of people was in the hundreds of years. They were having sons and daughters. Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot, probably way more than 1 billion. And then,
They didn't have TV
And
or
then you
anything,
happen-
so they didn't have nothing to do.
yeah. Well, but if you think about before the flood, when there was increased atmospheric pressure and higher oxygen levels, you could have ran for hours.
I would have loved that.
Without running out of breath.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do after the rapture.
Yeah.
I'm going to run and run and run and run
Because that's what you want to do.
on the beach forever. Yeah. With Duke. Johanna's laughing at us again.
Well, good. At least we can make someone laugh.
Yeah. Johanna, you better be careful you're not going to Las Vegas with me.
What?
Remember when they came over and I was saying, you're not going to go to Las Vegas with me if you laugh.
So Seth was born when Adam was 130. And it was, it was to replace Abel. But there was obviously many more sons and daughters that had already been born at that point in time. But this was the special son that was the replacement for Abel that had been slain by Cain. Now, that makes me think that it was probably somewhat close to this time frame when Cain killed Abel. It was probably 100 years in, 110 maybe, 120 maybe, right? 120 years in when that event happened. It doesn't tell us that, I'm just guessing. Because it was at 130 years old is when they had Abel to replace, or Seth to replace Abel. And Seth is who the bloodline came through, which eventually was Noah's bloodline. So that was the bloodline that was saved through the flood. And eventually produced Jesus, of course. And then, we're told in Genesis 6 about the angels that came to the earth and corrupted the people of the earth and took human wives and had children with those women that became mighty men and taught them many evil things. They taught them war. they taught them how to abort children. They taught them witchcraft and sorcery.
Mhm.
Yeah. Evil creatures.
Yeah.
And it tells us about these angels and how they took women as wives in Genesis, but there's more information that I'm giving you here that actually came from the book of Enoch
Yeah.
that tells us more about these angels and their sin and what they did. That was not specifically in the book of Genesis. So I have to make sure I tell you that because I'm not getting it from the canon that was created. So.
That would be a good Bible study, is to talk about the book of Enoch.
Okay. And we can.
Yeah.
Genesis 6, it tells us that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they choose. And they became, it tells us that they became mighty men, and tells us a lot of things one of the things that we know, what does it mean, the sons of God? Well,
I know.
I have a little note here.
God's creation.
Oops,
Sons of God, the angels.
There's my little note. And it actually is angels. I thought I had. Where's my little study note? Topic notes. There we go. I had to find my notes. So, the sons of God. I have a note here. There we go. Where we can see in Job, chapter 1, verse 6. Now, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the sons of God in this reference is angels.
Mm.
So that's how we know that the sons of God in Genesis 6 are angels.
Okay.
Because people do argue about that. Well, that doesn't. What are the sons of God?
So why are they arguing? Do they think something else?
Well, people like to argue.
Well, what do they say it is?
Well, they say that there's some kind of other creature, or
So that's speculation.
all kinds of speculative things.
Yeah.
But by the year 1550 AA, which is after Adam, there was only evil continually in the hearts of men, and the earth was filled with violence. This is what the earth had become 1,500 years after creation.
Wow.
The earth was just filled with violence and wickedness.
War.
And corruption.
1,500 years, that's it.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you can understand why after 6,000 years, God's like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's, his long suffering right now is just absolutely amazing.
I know. He has
all
a lot
the
of
wickedness and the evil in the world, and God is putting up with it for us. That's just, I can never thank him enough.
I know.
Be grateful enough for his grace and mercy and long suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Men were just vile, evil, wicked creatures. And I got this picture here because that's kind of what I imagine is just
it's just
this
terrible,
fiery, horrible place to
dead.
live.
It looks dead.
Vile wickedness. And that is when God decided to destroy the earth. But thank God that Noah loved God. Because what if Noah didn't love God?
He would have wiped out everybody.
He probably would have started over from scratch. Yeah. But Noah loved God. And he was obedient to him. He was the great grandson of Enoch. And Noah and Methuselah, Enoch's son and the grandfather of Noah, preserved the words of Enoch. And I make this note because I really do believe that. I believe that Enoch is a work of God, that it is real. But I leave it to you to decide. I've got these notes on Enoch, and I talk about, Enoch was actually quoted by both Jude and Peter. And it actually says in Enoch that the words were preserved for a future generation, which would be us, right? Because they were found recently. They knew of them prior to that. I mean, Jude and Peter both quoted from the book of Enoch, but they were lost. The book of Enoch was lost for a long time. It wasn't until I think it was the 1700s that a version of Enoch was found in Ethiopia. And then in the 1950s, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The book of Enoch was found among the scrolls. And that's why we have the book of Enoch today. And,
but I saw a documentary on something, and one of the guys that found the
Dead Sea Scrolls.
I thought he had helped to find them. He didn't say anything about the book of Enoch.
Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found by accident. There was a child. There's caves. If anyone who's ever been to Israel, or you can Google it, there's actual caves that are up on cliffs, the sheer rock walls where there's caves in there, and you can't get to them easily at all. And there was a kid that was throwing rocks into the caves and heard a clink of a clay jar, and that's what's in there. So when they went and investigated, they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in there.
Let's see. Jay says it took 1,500 years to corrupt the earth, but even in today's date, the earth was not as evil as it was back then. Almost as if one of the reasons of the flood was to purge the evil taught by the Watchers.
Yeah, and and it was also to purge the bloodline of the angels and their children, because that was evil, and one of the things that it tells us in the book of Enoch.
As in the days of Noah. Yeah. Jay says only till Revelation things will be that bad as back then, as in the days of Noah.
As the days of Noah and as the days of Lot.
Yeah.
And I really, we are there. The world is full of evil and corrupt.
I'm not sure what Sheila means when she says angels. Maybe because Jay said the Watchers.
Maybe. Yeah. And the
Watchers.
The angels are called Watchers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe that's why she's talking to Jay.
Yeah. But an interesting thing in the book of Enoch, just real quick, is that the angels that sinned, their sin was so grievous because they're heavenly creatures, and they came and sinned and taught mankind these evil things, that their punishment was also very grievous. And their children, their children were all slaughtered in wars, and they had to watch them slaughter each other, and they became evil spirits that are confined to the earth until the day of judgment. Their children.
Oh, the children.
The angels themselves are bound in the lowest abyss of Hades, chained in darkness, reserved for judgment. But their children, because they were heavenly beings and not supposed to do this thing, their children are actually confined to the earth as evil spirits.
It's kind of sad, though, because it's really not the children's fault, right?
I know, it's not their fault. It was the angels' fault. But that's where I believe evil spirits and demons come from.
And when
there are evil angels, as we know, but these evil spirits, there's a lot of them, and that's where they came from.
Jay said, purge the bloodline of the giants. Yes, I read this too. I believe this. Haha. I also read the one of the wives of the sons of Noah, however, still had a gene of the giants, which is why
That's what
they came
people
back.
think, yes. And there were giants at the time of David, right? There was a
Oh
giant,
yeah, yeah.
Goliath.
He slew a giant.
And there were giants referenced in other areas. So,
So that's interesting.
Whether or not that was the bloodline of the angels can be debated, though. It doesn't say that they were of that bloodline.
And the wives.
It just means that they were giants. It doesn't mean that. I know people try to say it means that, but it doesn't actually say that, so it doesn't mean it. Right. So
I didn't know Noah had a whole bunch of wives.
The Bible does not tell us that Noah had a bunch of wives.
Jay.
So, and I know that
did God really say that?
Teach a lot of things, but it doesn't say that Noah had a bunch of wives. But here's the thing: Noah was 600 years old at the flood.
Okay.
He was 500 years old when he had his 3 sons. And just like Adam and Eve were only told about 3 of their sons, well, Noah probably had sons and daughters much more than just the 3 that went with him on the ark, right? So he may have had more wives. We don't know. It doesn't say, so we can't say that he did.
So then I'm just to pretend like that doesn't.
Well, he said, okay, yes, pure speculation on my part.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but
after I started thinking he had all these wives and everything, then he said wives of the son of Noah, not Noah.
Well, Noah had 3 sons, but
that we know.
But I've thought about that too, Jade, because I've thought, well, Noah probably had more children.
Yeah, it was only 3 that
we're only told about the 3 that went with him on the ark.
Maybe the rest of them were just bad.
The rest of them probably did not love God.
Yeah, so only 3 were saved.
Yeah.
Because he was old. You know, he had way more children than 3. And did it all come from one woman?
We don't know that. We can speculate, but it makes sense, right? And I actually made a note of that here in my document, that Noah only had 3 sons we're told about, but no mention of daughters, which he probably did.
Yeah.
How many kids did Abraham have? Oh, he had a lot.
Abraham had 7 sons total. And
we sang that little song.
A couple of his daughters, but not many, because he married his concubine, Keturah, I think is her name.
He married the concubine.
After Sarah died, he had. Well, I don't remember if he married her or not, but he had more children. He had more children.
Sons, I'm having a typo explosion today.
No worries, brother. So, oh my gosh, it's already 8:00.
I know.
So
you're only into the flood.
So the flood, I'm going to wrap it up with this. And the flood actually lasted a year. I know there's all kinds of people out there. It's just, it blows me away. They say the flood lasted 40 days.
And 40 nights.
It rained. It rained in a torrential downpour for 40 days and 40 nights. And the fountains of the great deep were opened up, and the world was flooded to cover the mountains. And the flood actually lasted for a year before the waters had assuaged. And so if we read the account of the flood in Genesis 6, 7, and 8, you can see that there's many, 150 days here, 150 days there, and different time frames that all add up to a year. And we see, and it even says how old Noah was when it started and how old Noah was when it finished, and it was a year.
There you go.
So we know that it was a year.
I just can't imagine having 300 kids from one woman.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? I have 2.
I know.
It's like, wow.
Well, they were a lot healthier back then. And having
So?
babies probably didn't do to their bodies
Pain
what
in
happens
childbirth.
now. Yeah, they
Yeah,
rebounded
God.
very quickly and easily.
That is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess God
Imagine
probably
that.
had a hand in that and said, okay, well the earlier women, they'll be just fine. But all you women after the 1900s, you're going to be looking real bad after 2.
There you go, Paul.
You're gonna be looking
It's a
really
new
bad.
ringtone
Can
for
you
you, Paul.
imagine the stretch marks after
Oh,
300
okay, so we're
children?
going to move on now.
I can't
So-
even imagine that.
Because of the evil on the earth, God flooded the earth. He destroyed the whole thing. And he had a piece of cake.
Whatever.
So I'm trying to move on. So God opened the windows of heaven and the fountains of the great deep were broken up. And if you haven't watched the live stream on the creation versus evolution, it is extremely interesting to know what happened at the flood and what world was like before the flood. And Diane is almost done with number 2 of a remake for putting a facelift on that video. It makes them so much better. It's awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So part 1's out there, and then the other
Very
2,
educational.
part 2 and 3 are live streams we did a few weeks ago. So what'd you say?
It's a very educational,
Yeah, it is.
especially for me when I have to listen to the podcast over and over.
Yeah. You probably got all that stuff down.
Yeah, you got it down.
down.
You can teach a class now.
So when God broke up the fountains of the great deep and opened the windows of heaven, we had a storm like no other storm on this earth. You know what happens when a cold front meets a warm front? There's going to be a storm, right?
Florida.
Well, this was the scalding water from under the earth meeting the super cold water from above the earth, and then creating this massive storm.
Whew.
I'm sure
Scary. I bet you they were
it
scared.
was absolutely insane.
Well, they were scared. They were human. So they
and
were scared
terrified.
in there.
The
Yeah.
animals were terrified. The people were terrified. And it would have been, wow.
I know how Duke and Molly get when it storms.
Just from some thunderstorms, I know.
Mhm.
And then, God preserved
Oh, here.
the animals, every kind of animal. Oh, thank you, honey. I was forgetting to take those.
Yeah.
1 second. I could just start taking these a little bit later, I guess.
No, it's the beauty of it just adds something to
And
Bible
then,
study.
I can have a new ringtone to surprise Paul from time to time.
Yeah.
So he preserved, and he didn't just take 2 of every kind. Some he took 7.
Abraham, he had 2 more
Oh.
wives. Abraham had 2 more wives. Sheila.
Oh yeah.
Sheila's like he had 2 more wives. Abraham,
Keturah and another woman. Yeah, I can't remember the name.
the concubine.
But
He did not take a concubine. He
Yes.
just took his wife.
No, he did.
after Sarah. Yeah.
He got with that
Um,
concubine.
And I have it in here that it took Noah about 100 years to build the ark. It doesn't mean that it took Noah 100 years. It was 100 years from the time God said he was going to flood the earth and told Noah to build the ark. But it could have just been like the last 20 years, maybe, or 10 years to build the ark. I don't know. But we know that there was 120 years in between, or 100 years in between that time.
Yeah.
From when Noah was 500 years old, then he was 600 years old when the flood actually came. So, but we don't know that it actually took 100 years to build the ark, but it was really big.
Yeah.
And it probably would have taken a long, long time for them to create this huge
I
mammoth
kind of would
ark.
like to go
So,
and see
yeah.
the ark. in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, it's
The one that they
Creation.
built. Yeah.
The Creation Museum. Yeah.
Creation
they got
Museum.
some pretty cool stuff in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be cool to go see it because
Yeah.
I have it on another page. I'll show you guys here. Oh wait, it's on. What about the Ark?
Yeah.
The Ark was big enough to hold 530 railroad cars, which they put 250 sheep in a railroad car. So that's 132,500 sheep-sized animals in the Ark.
Oh, it stunk in there
This
too.
is a
Oh.
drawing of how big it would have been. I mean, it was huge.
It did not
Another one
smell
here with
good.
a semi beside it, right?
That did not
To
smell
illustrate.
good in there.
Wow.
It was.
That was like the size of a small
humongous.
city.
Yeah.
It was humongous.
Yes,
Yeah.
small
And it would
city,
have taken
yeah.
a long time to build. Yeah. And we don't know that Noah had a lot of help. It doesn't tell us.
Yeah, it has a
Yeah.
lot of people doing that.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
Because people didn't believe him.
People were probably standing around laughing at him. You know, what are you building that boat
He
on
probably
dry
had
land
his
for?
sons help him. Those 3 sons
Rain.
help him.
What do
His
you
sons
mean
probably
rain? What's rain?
I
Yeah.
know.
Water coming from
Because
the
it
sky.
hadn't rained on the earth. Yeah. The earth was watered from the springs in the ground.
Yeah.
It didn't rain. Yeah. Yeah, pretty amazing. So, yeah, I didn't get very far at all.
That's okay.
But we got through the flood. And I know I talked about a lot of side stuff, but it's important to really understand all of these things. So I'm even skipping a lot, but that's the first 1,656 years. Yeah, we haven't even got to Abraham yet. So then we'll say goodbye and
Goodbye.
pick it up again next week, and we'll just continue on this, talking about the story of the Bible and everything that happened.
Yeah.
So I will stop sharing.
Did you guys watch
see all
the
our
cruise?
pretty faces?
No.
What is going on here? There we go.
Watch the what?
I
Why
just
did you say-
can't watch a cartoon.
It's not a cartoon.
Well.
Oh, that one that you showed us?
Yeah, the
Crudes.
I
Yeah,
still
I'll
have
look it up and
Korean
watch it.
to learn. I'm busy.
You would like. You would think it was so funny. Nicolas Cage is the father.
Mm.
He's the voice actor.
He does
Yeah.
the voice of the father.
I'll watch it if Jody watches it.
I'll come over and watch it together.
There you go.
Do I have to clean?
It's not a cartoon like
Do I have to clean?
the cartoons
Nothing.
like Bugs Bunny and stuff. It's
Yeah, I know. Animation.
Yeah, it's a
Animation.
modern
The Crudes.
animated.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, everybody in chat, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for being here.
Jay, Sheila, Paul, and Johanna, and Thomas. Is that it?
And
We love you guys.
Jilly's actually watching on Rumble nowadays.
Oh,
She sent
so
me a
Jilly.
message on Rumble.
Yeah, so we'll
She's
say hi to
watching later.
Jilly. Hello, Jilly.
We love you.
Yeah, we love you. We love everybody in chat.
We love you all.
Yeah.
We really do. That's why we do this. You know, it's.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this to make money or get popular or anything.
No, no.
I wouldn't be talking about the things that I talk about if I wanted to be popular. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I do this because I love you.
People. Yeah.
And I want you to know the truth. And that's the only reason I do this.
Yeah, of course. And Jay said goodbye. He said, have a good one, guys. Informative as always. Thank you for your participation.
I'm glad it's interesting.
Yeah. So, subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed yet. And if you have, thank you so much. Please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you do the little thingy thing. Ding, ding,
Ring
ding,
the
ding,
bell.
ding. And select all, because then you won't miss any.
Yeah. and smash that like button.
And share it. Come on
And
now.
share it.
Share it right now.
Share with your
it.
friends so we can reach more people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And thank you, Jody and Diane, for being guests on our show.
Yeah.
You make it so
Of
much
course.
more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we just hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. It's almost Friday.
Ooh, and then I can work on the next video.
She lives for those videos.
I know.
I love
I can't
doing it.
wait for you to finish this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this
You're
one.
gonna really like this one because
Good.
it's very informative.
Yeah, good.
I like the first one, so
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll like this one too.
They're all good.
Yeah, they are all good. Yeah, she works hard. She works hard.
Yeah.
She does it for God.
And if anybody watching doesn't know yet, we did a live stream on creation versus evolution a few weeks back, and it took 3 different sessions. And Diane is taking those live streams and adding some background music in places, adding different videos and pictures and
Like
things
information.
that just make the video so much more interesting.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, she spoofs it
She's
up.
doing a great job. Yeah,
Yeah.
sprucing it up.
Thank
Yeah.
Spoof. She
Well,
spoofs it up.
Every time I sit down, I say, Lord, inspire me. And then I get this really great idea. And it's like, I got to go take a walk. I'm so excited.
Wow.
Oh, praise God.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy because I'll
Good.
make a click and I'll go, yes. And then I say, I got to go for a break.
Gotta grab my coffee.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, that's good. We're proud of you.
Yeah.
We're proud of you for working for God, so joyously.
Yeah.
Is that the right
Joyfully.
Joyfully,
Joyfully.
joyfully.
Yeah.
You work for God. You love to work for God.
Yes.
And that's why I need a different job, so I have more time to do stuff for God.
Yeah.
I just
You can help me with the videos.
I'd love to.
God will give
You
her.
can learn how
that'll
to
give
do
her a place.
animation and then teach me how to do animation. I want to have a little character go across the screen
Oh
without
yeah.
a white background behind
Yeah.
it. I just
Yeah.
want a little character.
This is our visiting after church. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have the church
So we
service
should-
and then
we
we
should
talk
say
after.
goodbye and let the people on the live stream go.
They could leave if they want.
Oh, that's true. Well, let me pray real quick before we all leave. So thank you, Lord, for giving us all the information, for telling us everything. We don't need to speculate on much. You've given us all of the information about everything you've done and what you're doing and why and where it's going to end. We thank you, Lord. We thank you and we love you, Lord. Your grace and mercy for loving us, for creating us. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
So, Sheila said, thank you. Thank you so much, Sheila, for being in chat and watching.
Love
We
you.
appreciate you. Love everybody. Love you, Jody. Love you, Sissy.
Love you guys.
And
Me too.
remember, same bat place, same bat time, same bat channel.
That's right.
See you on Sunday.